The broken clock arrived 3 days after my grandmother's funeral. And before the week was over, it would make me question everything I thought I knew about my family. The package appeared on my doorstep early Monday morning. No return address. No note. Just a worn cardboard box with my name written in my grandmother's unmistakable handwriting. Emma Carter. My hands trembled as I carried it inside. Grandma Eleanor had been gone for only 3 days. 3 days since we buried the woman who held our family together. 3 days since I stood beside her grave wondering why her final weeks had been filled with secrets. I carefully opened the box. Inside sat an old wooden mantel clock. The same clock that had rested on Grandma's fireplace for as long as I could remember. Its glass face was cracked. Its hands were frozen at exactly 7:14. And taped to the bottom was a small note. It contained only 6 words. Fix it, and you'll understand. I stared at the message. Confused. What was I supposed to understand? At the time, I thought it was simply Grandma's final puzzle. I had no idea it would uncover a secret powerful enough to divide my entire family. My name is Emma Carter. I'm 32 years old. And until recently, I believed my grandmother loved all her grandchildren equally. Then the clock changed everything. Grandma Eleanor wasn't just my grandmother. She was my best friend. After my mother died when I was 11, Grandma became my safe place. Every birthday. Every Christmas. Every heartbreak. She was always there. That's why her final months felt so strange. Something had changed. Something none of us understood. Especially when it came to my cousin Sophie. Sophie and I had grown up together. We were more like sisters than cousins. At least we used to be. But during Grandma's last year, Sophie seemed different. Secretive. Protective. Always whispering with Grandma whenever family gathered. Whenever I entered the room, conversation suddenly stopped. At first I ignored it. Then I started noticing more things. One afternoon I visited Grandma unexpectedly. As I walked toward the kitchen, I heard voices. Grandma's voice sounded worried. Sophie's sounded emotional. I couldn't hear every word. Only fragments. She can never know. Promise me. After I'm gone. The moment they noticed me, both women went silent. The atmosphere changed instantly. Grandma forced a smile. Sophie's eyes darted toward the floor. It felt wrong. Very wrong. A week later, I found Sophie leaving Grandma's house carrying a large envelope. She quickly slid it into her purse when she saw me. What was that? I asked. She smiled awkwardly. Nothing important. Nothing important. The answer felt rehearsed. Then came the phone calls. Every evening around the same time. Grandma would receive a call. She'd leave the room. Close the door. And speak quietly for nearly an hour. When I asked who it was, she always gave the same answer. Just family business. Family business. What family business? No one would tell me. The uncertainty began eating at me. And after Grandma passed away, things got worse. Much worse. The reading of the will took place 2 days after the funeral. The entire family gathered at a lawyer's office. Everyone looked exhausted. Everyone looked heartbroken. But Sophie looked nervous. Extremely nervous. I noticed her constantly checking her phone. Avoiding eye contact. Twisting her wedding ring. As if she knew something the rest of us didn't. Then the lawyer began reading. Most of Grandma's belongings were divided fairly. Jewelry. Furniture. Savings. Family photographs. Exactly what I expected. Then came the final item. The house. Grandma's beloved house. The house where every family memory existed. The house everyone assumed would be sold and divided equally. The lawyer cleared his throat. then announced something none of us expected. Grandma had left the house to Sophie. Only Sophie. The room exploded. What? My uncle practically jumped out of his chair. That can't be right. My aunt started crying. My brother looked stunned. I couldn't even speak. The house was worth nearly everything Grandma owned. And somehow Sophie had inherited it all. I looked directly at her. She wasn't surprised. Not even a little. Which somehow hurt more. Because it meant she already knew. Did you know about this? I asked. The room became silent. Sophie's face turned pale. Emma. Did you know? She hesitated. Just long enough. Then nodded. And in that moment something inside me broke. The cousin I trusted. The cousin who had spent months meeting secretly with Grandma. The cousin carrying mysterious envelopes. The cousin having private conversations. The cousin who already knew about the inheritance. Suddenly every suspicious moment made sense. Or so I thought. That night I sat alone in my apartment staring at the broken clock. The anger wouldn't leave. The betrayal felt too big. Too personal. Too painful. Then I noticed something strange. Something I had missed earlier. One of the clock screws looked newer than the others. Much newer. Almost as if someone had recently removed the back panel. My pulse quickened. I grabbed a screwdriver. And carefully opened the clock. Inside, hidden behind the gears, was a folded piece of paper. A note. Written in Grandma's handwriting. My heart nearly stopped. I unfolded it slowly. The message contained only one sentence. The first secret isn't in the clock. Below it was a date. October 14th, 2004. Nothing else. No explanation. No clue. No reason. Just a date. A date that would lead me to a discovery so shocking it would convince me Sophie had been lying to me for years. And when I uncovered what happened on October 14th, 2004, I became almost certain my grandmother had betrayed me too. The date haunted me for 2 days. October 14th, 2004. I had no idea why Grandma had hidden it inside the clock. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sophie's face in the lawyer's office. The hesitation. The guilt. The way she already knew about the house. The way Grandma had trusted her with secrets she never shared with me. And for the first time in my life, I found myself wondering something I never thought possible. Maybe Grandma had favorites. Maybe I just wasn't one of them. The answer came from an old storage box. After my mother's death, Grandma had saved nearly every family document imaginable. Photographs. Birthday cards. School reports. Tax records. Everything. If October 14th, 2004 mattered, I figured there had to be a reason. So I spent an entire Saturday digging through dusty boxes in my apartment. Around sunset, I found it. A newspaper clipping. Dated October 15th, 2004. My hands froze. The headline mentioned my mother's name. I stared at it in disbelief. My mother, Sarah Carter, had been involved in a serious car accident. I remembered the accident. But only vaguely. I had been 11 years old. I remembered hospitals. Doctors. Fear. I remembered Grandma crying. I remembered being told Mom would recover. What I didn't remember was how close we had come to losing her. The article described extensive injuries. Multiple surgeries. Months of rehabilitation. The situation had apparently been much worse than anyone ever told me. My chest tightened. Why would Grandma hide this date? Why make me revisit one of the most painful periods of my childhood? Then something fell out of the newspaper clipping. A folded bank statement. My heart skipped. I unfolded it carefully. The account belonged to Grandma. The withdrawal amount made my stomach drop. Nearly $80,000. Taken out only days after my mother's accident. $80,000. In 2004. It was a fortune. I immediately checked the date. October 14, 2004. The same date from the note. My pulse quickened. Where had the money gone? Why had Grandma withdrawn it? And why hide this information inside the clock? Then I noticed another name. One that made my blood run cold. Sophie Reynolds. Sophie's father. My Uncle David. His name appeared beside the transaction. As the recipient. I read it 3 times. Then 4. Then 5. Certain I was misunderstanding. But I wasn't. Grandma had transferred $80,000 to Sophie's family. The same family that eventually inherited her house. The same family she spent years secretly meeting with. The same family she trusted more than anyone else. Or so it seemed. Suddenly every suspicious moment felt connected. The hidden conversations. The envelopes. The private meetings. The inheritance. The house. Everything pointed in one direction. Sophie's family had been receiving special treatment for years. And Grandma had hidden it from everyone. Including me. I called my brother immediately. "You're not going to believe what I found." "What happened?" I explained everything. The note. The date. The bank transfer. The inheritance. The silence on the other end lasted several seconds. Then he said exactly what I feared. "Emma, that doesn't look good." By Sunday evening, most of the family knew. And the reactions were brutal. My uncle was furious. My aunt cried. Several relatives began openly questioning Grandma's decisions. Questions turned into accusations. Accusations turned into resentment. And at the center of it all sat Sophie. She ignored every call. Every text. Every email. Which only made things worse. Because innocent people explain themselves. At least that's what I believed. Guilty people disappear. And Sophie had disappeared completely. 3 days later, I found another note hidden inside the clock. This time behind one of the wooden panels. I nearly ripped it open. Inside was a single sentence. "Ask Sophie about the lake." Nothing else. No explanation. Just another clue. Another mystery. Another secret. The lake. Immediately I knew which lake Grandma meant. Silver Lake. The family cabin. The place where every summer vacation happened. The place Grandma loved more than anywhere else in the world. The place she sold in 2005. Only months after the mysterious bank transfer. That discovery pushed me over the edge. Because now a horrifying theory formed in my mind. Grandma hadn't simply given Sophie's family money. She had sold the lake property too. Possibly for them. Possibly because of them. Possibly sacrificing family assets for one side of the family while keeping the rest of us in the dark. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Finally, I drove to Sophie's new house. The house Grandma left her. The house I still couldn't accept. The house that felt stolen. When Sophie opened the door, she looked exhausted. Her eyes were red. As if she hadn't slept in days. For a brief moment I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the bank statement. "We need to talk." Her face immediately fell. "Emma." "No." I stepped forward. "No more secrets." We sat across from each other in silence. Then I placed the documents on the table. The bank statement. The note. The newspaper clipping. The evidence. Or what I believed was evidence. Sophie stared at them. Her shoulders slowly slumped. And that reaction convinced me I was right. Completely right. "You knew." My voice shook. You knew about the money. She closed her eyes. Yes. You knew about the house. Yes. You knew Grandma was hiding things. Another pause. Yes. The answers felt like knives. Tears filled my eyes. Why? Sophie started crying too. But I wasn't interested in her tears. Not anymore. Why did Grandma choose you? For several seconds she said nothing. Then she whispered. Because she asked me to keep a promise. A promise? What promise? Sophie's tears began falling harder. The room felt suffocating. Heavy. Painful. Then she said something that changed everything. The money wasn't for us. I laughed bitterly. The documents say otherwise. It wasn't for us. Then where did it go? She looked directly into my eyes. And spoke the words that shattered my entire theory. It paid for your mother's surgeries. I froze. Completely froze. The room suddenly felt silent. Too silent. What? Sophie swallowed hard. Grandma didn't give us the money. I couldn't speak. Couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. Then Sophie revealed the truth. The truth Grandma had spent 20 years protecting. The truth hidden inside the broken clock. The truth that made every accusation feel unbearable. And when she finished telling me what really happened in 2004, I wished I could take back every terrible thing I'd thought about both of them. I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Couldn't even process what Sophie had just said. The documents trembled in my hands. The room felt smaller. The air felt heavier. And for the first time since Grandma's funeral, I was terrified that I had gotten everything wrong. The money paid for my mother's surgeries? My voice barely worked. Sophie nodded. Tears streamed down her face. Yes. I stared at her. Then why was your father's name on the transfer? She took a shaky breath. Because he loaned Grandma the rest of the money she needed. I blinked. What? Slowly, painfully, Sophie began telling me the truth. The real truth. The truth nobody wanted me to know. Because Grandma had forbidden them from telling me. After my mother's accident in 2004, the medical bills became overwhelming. Insurance covered some expenses. But not enough. Not nearly enough. The surgeries. The rehabilitation. The specialists. The medications. The costs kept growing. And Grandma was desperate. According to Sophie, Grandma sold investments. Drained savings accounts. Used nearly everything she had. But it still wasn't enough. Not even close. That's when Uncle David stepped in. My uncle had secretly taken out a second mortgage on his home. A decision that nearly destroyed his finances. A decision he never told anyone about. Not even most of the family. He gave Grandma the money. No contracts. No guarantees. No expectations. Only one promise. Save Sarah. Save my mother. I covered my mouth. Trying to stop myself from crying. But it didn't work. The tears came anyway. Why didn't anyone tell me? Sophie's answer broke my heart. Because Grandma wouldn't allow it. Apparently Grandma believed my mother would feel guilty. She worried Mom would blame herself. She worried I would grow up feeling responsible. So she made everyone promise. No one would ever tell us. Not while she was alive. For 20 years. They kept that promise. 20 years. The room was silent. Except for the sound of both of us crying. Then I remembered something. The cabin. The lake. The family property. What about Silver Lake? Sophie's eyes softened. That was the second sacrifice. After helping pay for my mother's treatment, Grandma struggled financially. The cabin became impossible to maintain. The property taxes increased. Repairs became expensive. Eventually she made a choice. She sold the place she loved most. The place where our family created memories. Not because she wanted to. Because she had to. Because saving my mother mattered more. I looked away. Ashamed. So deeply ashamed. I had spent weeks believing Grandma favored Sophie. Believing she betrayed me. When the truth was exactly the opposite. Then Sophie reached into a drawer. And pulled out a yellow envelope. Immediately I recognized the handwriting. Grandma's. My heart began racing. What's that? Sophie swallowed hard. The final secret. My pulse quickened. She carefully handed me the envelope. Across the front, written in Grandma's familiar cursive, were 4 words. For Emma, when she understands. The tears returned instantly. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. Several pages long. I recognized every curve of every letter. Grandma's voice seemed to come alive inside my head. My dearest Emma. If you're reading this, then you've reached the end of my little treasure hunt. Which means you've probably been angry with me. And maybe angry with Sophie too. A painful laugh escaped me. She knew. Of course she knew. You always did jump to conclusions faster than anyone in this family. I smiled through tears. That sounded exactly like Grandma. Then the letter became more serious. There is something I've wanted you to understand for many years. Love isn't measured by what we leave people. It's measured by what we're willing to sacrifice for them. My vision blurred. I kept reading. When your mother was hurt, I would have given away every dollar I owned to save her. And the truth is, I nearly did. I never regretted it. Not once. I couldn't stop crying. Not now. Not anymore. The cabin wasn't my greatest treasure. My savings weren't my greatest treasure. The house wasn't my greatest treasure. You were. The words hit me like a wave. A powerful, overwhelming wave. You. Your mother. This family. That was always my inheritance. I wiped my eyes and continued. I left the house to Sophie because she carried the secret beside me for 20 years. She protected it when it would have been easier to reveal it. She honored her promise every single day. That house isn't a reward. It's a thank you. I looked at Sophie. She was crying harder than I was. Everything suddenly made sense. The secret conversations. The envelopes. The meetings. The nervousness. The inheritance. Every clue I thought proved betrayal. Actually proved loyalty. Then I reached the final paragraph. The final secret. The final lesson. The final gift. Emma. Families survive because ordinary people make extraordinary sacrifices. Most of those sacrifices are invisible. The people who love us rarely announce what they gave up. They simply give it up. And keep loving us anyway. Then came the final sentence. The sentence that would stay with me forever. The greatest inheritance isn't money. It's discovering how deeply you were loved all along. I broke down completely. The kind of crying that comes from relief. From guilt. From gratitude. From love. Several months later, our family gathered at the old house. The same house that nearly tore us apart. Now it was bringing us together. Sophie had decided not to sell it. Instead, she turned it into a place where everyone could gather. Birthdays. Christmas. Thanksgiving. Family reunions. Exactly what Grandma would have wanted. That afternoon, we hung a photograph of Grandma above the fireplace. Directly beneath it sat the broken clock. Restored. Working. Ticking once again. As I watched the clock's hands move, I thought about everything it had revealed. Not hidden treasure. Not scandal. Not betrayal. Something much more valuable. Truth. Sometimes the people we love protect us in ways we never see. Sometimes their sacrifices remain hidden for years. And sometimes it takes a broken clock to reveal the heart of a family. Before everyone left that evening, I stood alone beside Grandma's photograph. Then I whispered the words I wished I had said sooner. Thank you. For the sacrifices. For the lessons. For the love. For every secret she carried to protect us. And as the clock quietly ticked behind me, I realized something. Grandma's final secret hadn't changed everything. It had revealed what had been true all along. We were loved far more than we ever knew.